magical beings, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Sarah and I am the Woodland Witch. It's definitely been quite a while since I have filmed anything. I took a much needed long break. As many of you know, my mother had been sick for quite a while. She did end up passing away on Christmas. So I've just really been taking time to grieve and recover, and it's really a roller coaster, and I'm truly just taking it moment by moment. I don't think there's really anything in life that prepares you to lose a parent, and I've lost both of mine. So this has been a big adjustment, and there's nothing that will ever make it easier. But I knew that I needed to just take some time away from major content creating and creative endeavors and all of those things. It is something that I have missed, and I am slowly easing my way back into it. So it's good to be here. It's good to be creating again and connecting with all of you again. I do want to just say thank you to this community and everyone on Instagram who has supported me over the last 6 months, who's sent me messages, who's listened to me, who's cried with me, who's sent condolences, flowers, gifts, everything. Like, you have no idea how much this community has truly carried me through one of the most heartbreaking, horrible things that someone can go through in a lifetime. So I just wanted to say a really big thank you to everyone who was there for me and supported me in this time. So I did a little bit of digging on Instagram to see what it was you guys were kind of interested in seeing. Like I said, it's been a while since I've filmed anything, and I knew that when I came back to YouTube and when I started refilming again, I wanted to start incorporating other things. There's so many aspects to my life that I want to share, and two of the biggest things that you guys were interested in were homesteading, recipes, seeing how I provide for my family and how I live a little bit more simply and self-sufficiently. Another was vlogs. You guys are really wanting to see some behind the scenes stuff, so those are some things that I'm going to be pursuing in this new year. I hope you all had a lovely holiday season and are still taking time to rest. It is only January, winter has just begun, so it is still time to stay inward, retreat, and really just reflect and recover and allow things to just be for now. I am excited for this new year and for some of the things that I have planned, and I'm just really excited to get back into creating and connecting with all of you again. So for this week's video, I really wanted to do an introduction to homesteading and share some tips and things that I've learned, why I've chosen to begin homesteading and why it's important, as well as some things that you can do to begin your homesteading journey. The definition of homesteading is really going to vary depending on who you talk to. Some people will say it's simple living, slow living, more self-sufficient living. I think a lot of people also have a picture in their mind of what homesteading looks like, where you have to have a full farm, 10 chickens, a goat, a cow, everything. Now, homesteading is all of those things, but there is something a little different, I think, in today's society when you're looking at it from more of a modern lens on what homesteading really means. In today's society, we are very accustomed to living modernly. There are just luxuries we are used to having. Being able to go to the grocery store, grab your produce, your meat, anything you might need in one spot. Electricity and electronics, all of those things. So when you look at homesteading from this modern lens, it is a lifestyle choice. While it is all of those things, slow living, farming, canning, preserving food, it is a constant choice to be more self-sufficient. Now you might be asking yourself, why would I want to be self-sufficient? It's just more work. That's true. It is more work. There's a lot of things in our society that aren't necessarily reliable, and I think we're so used to having them now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have them forever. And I think for me personally, I always felt like I was born in the wrong time. I don't necessarily feel that way now. I think, that's a whole other conversation, but I do feel like I've been really drawn to the ways of my ancestors and more simple living. It just feels better to me. I just enjoy it more. I love creating, especially with my own two hands, and being able to learn skills that have been passed down from generations to generations and teach them to my daughter and do things like bake bread and things like that that are feeding my family is just really rewarding. I don't really mind putting in the extra work because it is really just fulfilling. I also really wanted to get into homesteading for more of the financial aspect. I don't want to say that homesteading is inherently cheaper. In a lot of ways it can be, especially when making things from scratch and other things like that, canning, preserving food over time. I will say it's more of an investment. So you may be spending X amount of money to invest in animals or a garden. And it may be a large sum at first, but over time you're going to reap the rewards of that and it's going to outweigh everything. For instance, my garden did cost me a little bit of money to get set up, but I'm going to have it for years to come, and it has provided food for my family. Approaching it as an investment, a long-term investment, is really important. So while homesteading is an initial investment and it may be a little more costly to get started in certain things like farming or gardening, over time you start to really reap the benefits of those things, especially long term. So like I said, I don't want to say it's necessarily cheaper, but I think it is definitely more rewarding, and that's another big part of homesteading that is important to me. I really want to be conscious of where I'm spending my money and what I'm putting my money into. I would much rather invest in a whole zucchini plant than go to the grocery store and buy a single zucchini, because one plant is going to provide me with food for upwards of 4 months, whereas a single zucchini at the grocery store now is probably closer to 45-50 cents for one. I think times are really tough for a lot of people right now, and I know I personally don't have the luxury of just willy-nilly buying whenever I want to. A lot of people don't. Making the choice to homestead has been really financially beneficial for my family. It makes me feel good about what I'm investing my money into, and it's really helped us cut costs in other ways as well. Another reason I really got into homesteading was for the health aspect. There has been a lot of illness in my genetic line, specifically cancer. So naturally that causes a little bit of fear in my mind of like not wanting to go through those things or for my family to go through those things. So it's been very important to me to not only invest my money in the right things, but invest in things that I know are good for my body and for my family. That's where I think it can get a little crunchy, and I do believe there is a balance to everything. We still love sweets, we still splurge every now and again on things, especially food. I'm a Taurus and I'm a foodie, and you'll never take that away from me. So we still do hold space for fun and enjoyment, but it is a big priority to me to ensure that I am not being frivolous with the chemicals and the things that I am ingesting. So when I'm making bread and laundry soap, which I will be sharing with you in this video as well, I know every ingredient that's going into it, and I can do research on those things. It's not a list of 25, 30 ingredients that I don't know. So it just gives me a little bit of a peace of mind that I am making better conscious choices for myself, my health, and my family. Homesteading can get really intimidating for some people, and that's okay. It was a big leap for me, and it is still intimidating. There's still so much that I haven't tried. There's stuff I'm afraid to try. And I think that's where, in this more modern society, we have to approach it a little differently. When I lived in North Carolina, I had 13 chickens and I had a full garden and I was an herbalist. But I had never tried making bread. I had never canned my own food. There's things that you may have to swap out with time. For instance, I live more in a city now, so I don't have space to have chickens or animals or things like that. But I have made bread and I have canned food. It's important in this more modern society to also approach it not feeling like you have to have it all. There's always going to be circumstances in our life that are going to affect what it is we're capable of doing, whether you have chronic illness or a tight budget, whatever it may be. But it's all about making those conscious lifestyle choices. And I think so many of us are desiring to revert back to those old ways of living. It's very beneficial, it's rewarding, it's fulfilling. So my advice in that aspect is to try one thing. Homesteading is a journey over time, especially in this society, where it's a goal that you're moving towards. And that goal is self-sufficiency. You're not going to be able to do everything all at once. It's going to take a long time, but taking those steps is what's important. So my advice to you to get started in homesteading is to try a few different things. Try swapping out one thing that you typically buy from a grocery store and try making it yourself. One of the things that I have swapped out from buying at the grocery store is laundry soap. That is mainly because I have very sensitive skin. My daughter has very sensitive skin. I have reacted to a lot of liquid detergents in a negative way. If you look at a bottle of liquid detergent, there's a lot of things on there that I can't pronounce. And in my research, I don't particularly like what they do to the body long term. So laundry soap is one thing that I have chosen to make from scratch. Now, obviously, I don't just have borax in my backyard or anything like that, but it is something that I do choose to buy simpler ingredients and make from scratch. So I did want to also share that recipe with you all here. All right, magical beings, let's make my homemade laundry soap. Mr. Woodland Witch really wanted to be involved here. The first thing I'm using is the Arm & Hammer Super Washing Soda, and I am just going to dump it right in a big bowl. I believe this was the 56-ounce box. Next up is our Borax Laundry Booster, and I believe this was a 4-pound box. Just go ahead and mix that right in with your washing soda. Now, I opted to add scent beads to this blend. There is fragrance in here, so if you choose to not use it, that is totally fine. This one doesn't seem to bother my skin, so I don't mind using it. I also added a bit of OxiClean. This is another one you don't have to add because we do have the borax and washing soda, but I grew up on OxiClean, so for good measure. The last thing you're going to add is 2 5-ounce bars of Felves Naphtha soap. You're going to grate those up with a cheese grater and give everything a really good mix. You're going to store in some airtight containers. This size batch typically lasts my family anywhere from 7 months to 8 months. I keep my little blue scooper for my OxiClean and I fill it about 1/4 of the way per load. And that is how I make homemade laundry soap. Happy crafting! So like I said, laundry soap is just one thing I have swapped out and made with simpler ingredients, made more from scratch. I'm really confident about the ingredients that are going into it, and I know everything that I'm putting into it. My skin handles it a lot better, and so does my daughter. Other things that might be more accessible for you to make are swapping out bread or trying to make your own butter. I have shared my butter recipe on Instagram. If you are all interested in seeing that recipe, you can go check it out there. Homesteading is a long-term journey, so try not to be intimidated and take it one step at a time. Starting small and taking that first step makes all the difference. Set small goals for yourself, try new things, try new recipes. I know I've surprised myself, and I'm sure that you will also surprise yourself with what you're actually capable of doing with your own 2 hands. All right, everyone, that is our Homesteading for Beginners video. I had a lot of fun talking about this. It's something that's really important in my life, and I'm sure that I missed a few things. So if you have any questions, leave them below. I'm excited to create some new things for you and to just get back into creating in general. It feels really good to be back, and as always, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one.